Good morning, everybody. How is everybody? Good. I've seen some first-timer badges around. Hands up. Who's here for the first time? Quite a lot of you. Okay. You enjoying it?
Yep.
Good. Session titles on the board. Hopefully you're all in the right room. If you're not and you want to get up and leave, I'm not going to be offended. That's a good sign. Okay. So, governance and auditing for Power BI is not the most glamorous subject. You've done well to come to the first session of the event because once it's done and out the way, you haven't got to worry about it again for the rest of the week and you can go and enjoy yourself. But it is important. It's something we definitely need to talk about, something that's not really brought up a lot in business until it's too late, and then things are quickly thrown into place to try and put a governance plan or some disaster recovery. It's kind of like insurance. You need it before you know you need it. So that's what the talk's going to be about today. A little bit about me before we start. My name's Joe Billingham. I've been working in and around SQL Server for around 10 years plus. But about three and a half years ago, I made the move into business intelligence, everything from building data sets to reports, and then looking after and administrating a Power BI estate. I work for a company called Power BI Sentinel. Power BI Sentinel create a product that help with governance and auditing. We'll come on to that shortly. I do community work. I run a data platform user group in the Midlands in the UK. And outside of that, anything that's got a string attached to it, basically that's an instrument, it's interesting. Guitars especially, which is why my blog's called Data Luthier. Everything from playing the guitar, building them, fixing them. That's kind of my relaxation after work. So a point to address just before we start. This is a sponsored session. What that doesn't mean is that this is a 30-minute sales pitch. The point of the session is that it's supposed to be educational. So I'm going to be showing you what data governance is, what a data estate is, talking about why it's important, talking about the best practices to implement it. We do lead into the product. There is a little bit about it towards the end. But hopefully you go away with some knowledge about how to govern your Power BI estate by the book. So the first question is, why Power BI? Well, the diagram on the board at the minute is the Gartner Smart Quadrant from June this year. And as you can see, all the way up in the top right, in the lead, in terms of completeness of vision and ability to execute, you've got Microsoft. They're the forerunners when it comes to business intelligence and analytics. That means not only are most people using that, but it also means that going forward, that's going to be the technologies that people are using. So that's where we focused what we do. So for the purposes of this talk, it's going to center around Power BI and Fabric. Some of the concepts are applicable to other technologies, business intelligence and data governance as a whole, but for context, it's mainly going to be Power BI. So there's some questions you need to be asking yourself. This slide kind of doubles as an agenda for the session. So there's some important things that you need to factor in. How do I build confidence in data? What is a data estate by definition? How do you impose security across that estate and make sure it's working? How do you monitor that security is being adhered to and what's going on? And then what kind of tools can you use to help along the way? We'll go through a few examples of third-party tools, one of which is better than all of the others. But that might just be me being biased. So let's move into why we're here, why does it matter? Data governance is a bit of a buzzword. Like I say, a lot of the times companies come to implement this a little bit too late. So what we're going to discuss is, what's the purpose of learning this now? And it's for companies who are either already started on their journey with their data estate, they've got a Power BI estate set up, they're struggling to control it, they've got problems with it, or even for companies that are just starting out new on their data journey, it's good to have this in place. Our customers, we kind of get one in each bucket. We either have customers who are in a bit of a mess that need tidying up, or they're just starting out and they want to make sure they're going to do things right before they get into that mess. So we work basically on these 5 principles. First of which, being trustability. Now, this is to do with the accuracy of the data. This is to make sure that all of the business decisions that your business are making based on the data is being made on the truth. Now, everybody knows Excel hell. Everybody's been there. Everybody's trying to move out of it, or at least should be. And if you've got a Power BI estate full of data sets that are all mismatched and all over the place, and nobody's really sure which one they should be using, and you go into a meeting with the board, your colleagues got a report, you've got a report, they've got different numbers on, guarantee that board member's going to boot up their old Excel spreadsheet and just go back to what they were using before. We're trying to get them out of that. So it's important that your data is trustable. It's important that it is a single source of truth. Second point is consistency. Now that kind of ties in with trustworthiness. Consistency is key, especially in Power BI, where users have got their hands on their data and there's no real, it's kind of like the Wild West of data. They can do what they want with it. What that means is they can download a report with the data in, make a change, upload it, then the next person that comes along doesn't know which version of that model that they're working off contains the correct truth. How do you monitor that centrally as a BI team member? Very difficult to do natively. The A stands for accessibility. Availability. This is where is the data and how is the data? So how many people here use Power BI? Pretty much all of you, great. And how many of you are in charge of at least one model that's got an automatic scheduled refresh on it? Fantastic. Now, if it fails, you get an email, you get told that it's failed. What if you work as part of a team and you're on holiday for a week? If it fails on Monday, how does anybody know that it's failed without some form of central visualization of what's going on? Yes, you can set up Outlook alerts, but there's nothing natively in Power BI that will cater for that. So that availability is important, not only in terms of data for the users to make sure they've got it and it's up to date, but in a monitoring sense for people who are running it. The T for transparency. This is to do with levels of access. Who can see the data? Why can they see the data? Can they see the correct data? But not just who can, who has. How do you audit it? The onboard auditing tools in Power BI exist. They're not brilliant. We'll go through them later. But it's very difficult to know who's seen what. And in today's climate, with data security being such a big thing in business, having the ability to know who's consumed what is huge when it comes to Power BI. And then everybody's favorite, the R for regulatory. How many people have been through a SOC 2 audit or a 27001 audit? How much fun is it? No fun at all. But if you can tick a box that says we can do all of this at the touch of a button, it just makes, as far as the Power BI side of that's concerned, a breeze. So we've got GDPR in Europe, we've got SOC 2 over in the States, we've got ISO 27001 again in Europe. All of these certificates are so hard to obtain, mainly because you've got to prove that you can show your data security and governance plans to the auditors to show what's going on. Again, almost impossible natively in Power BI without a lot of logging and audit information being done manually. So to get all this in place, you need a plan. If you don't think you need a plan, you do. If you've got a plan, fantastic. I'm not going to tell you what your plan should be. The next few slides will contain some best practices and suggestions about what you should do, but what you'll soon come to realize is that every single business need is different when it comes to a data environment. So nobody can stand here at the front of a room and tell you all what you need to do, just that you need to do it and show you the importance. But holistically, the framework's pretty much the same for everybody. You have a plan. What do you want to achieve from your data estate? What's it for? Who's it for? Plan it out. Then monitor it. You need to monitor that the plan that you've put in place and the teaching that you've given your staff to follow that plan is being adhered to. That's the difficult part. How do you monitor something as... I always say that the best thing about Power BI is that it's self-service. End users can get the data they need almost instantly without the need for a full development team. The worst thing about Power BI is that it's self-service, because from a governance point of view, it's just so difficult to wrangle. So you need to be able to monitor this plan. We'll discuss how to do that later. When it goes wrong, we need to repair. And when I say repair, I don't mean you repair the broken thing in the estate itself. If you've got a duplicate model, yes, go and clear that up, but that's not what I'm pointing at here. What I mean here is repair the process. Fix the thing that the staff are doing that's breaking it. Retrain. And that process is iterative forever. Doesn't matter how well you monitor it. It's a self-service platform. Users are going to do what users do. They're going to break things. The key is being able to see what's going wrong and fix it quick before it becomes a problem. How many of you have a data estate that looks like this? I'm glad nobody put their hand up because I haven't got to accuse anybody of being a liar. It's what I like to call the Goldilocks environment. You've got your sources into a nice clean warehouse, into a single source of truth, and all of your end users connect to that one source, report off it. Everybody's golden, all reading off the same hymn sheet, and business is booming.
We're close.
You may be close. You may be further away than you think once you get a holistic view of what's going on, but okay. In reality, you get this. It's kind of what our data environment looks like. Now, on the surface, this looks like a problem. Yes, you've got your Goldilocks environment going on, fantastic. But you've also got these added on little satellite solutions that people have plugged in. Finance don't want their data going into the warehouse because of security reasons, so they've got their own little data set going off on here. And then you've got your high-level team BI, where your central team are creating the report suite for the end users. Then you've got the end users themselves who are going direct to the model and ignoring those reports because they want something a little bit different. Or they're even just duplicating what the team have done because they don't know they exist. So then you've just got a whole load of duplicate stuff that isn't being refreshed on the same schedule, so there's your consistency gone. Somewhere down here, you've got a joined up composite model of the two, again with end user reports. Not a problem. None of these things are problems as long as you're monitoring them. This is what Power BI is for. It's meant for users to grab and run with. You just need to be able to control it. And then, of course, we've got John that works in stock control on the right-hand side, who's got this CSV file that he plugs into the master data file. And in this case, BC stands for business critical. He has a CSV file that runs the entire stock warehouse and nobody knows it exists until John leaves. And then there's a problem. How do you know that exists? Well, that's where the monitoring comes in. You need to be able to centrally monitor all of your data sources for all of your reports. But John here is a good example of what I like to call the I need it yesterday effect. If you want to govern your Power BI estate, you can. Everything can be done by a central team. But if somebody wants a specific report, they log a ticket or a request, and then 3 weeks later, once it's been picked up, developed, tested, redeveloped because it was wrong, tested, released, they haven't got time. That business decision's already been made. So you get power users right at the very end who know how to use Power BI. They'll connect to the data source, they'll whip something up. Impossible to govern because it's just, again, the Wild West. It's a user doing what a user does. Nobody in the central team knows that report exists without manually going through and looking for it. But again, it's not incorrect. There is a use case for both of these. The reality is businesses should be somewhere in the middle. The overarching theme of this is that there is no right or wrong way to do anything. As long as you're looking at what's being done, you're doing it right. So everybody's got their own personal workspace. They're throwing things in. The central team have got their very well-structured workspaces that people can jump into. So a question I like to ask at this point is, what's a workspace? And I ask this question, I get a lot of different answers. Does anybody want to hazard a guess? What's a workspace?
My eyes, it's a container that keeps a set of artifacts related to your estate, but it should actually be more than that, because it should enable you to govern, control, and group artifacts appropriately to make sure that your entire estate is running as it should.
And this is the key. You ask people what a workspace is, and they give that kind of answer, and you say you need to group it so your artifacts are all in the right place. But what's a group? Is it a business entity? Do you have a sales workspace, a stock workspace, a finance workspace? Maybe. Does every person have a workspace? I know everybody gets a personal workspace, but do you publicly give everybody a workspace? I've seen this.
Sure.
Does every project have a workspace? I'm going to use retail a lot in my examples because that's mainly what I work in, but we've just sent out our Christmas stock. Let's have a Christmas workspace to track all of the sales and stock for Christmas. Let's have one per report. I've seen this. This one I can't give you a justification for because I think it's crazy, but businesses do this. And then I get the who cares? It's just a place in the cloud that reports exist, and as long as we know where they are, who cares? You've not defined what a workspace is. A workspace is simply this. It's a container that you put security on, and you group it by who needs access to that data. Not what that data is. Ignore the data, ignore the subject. Think of it as a lockbox. You want to put all of your data into a lockbox and you want to give everybody a key. Well, that's not safe. So you put certain bits of data in different lockboxes, knowing that if you give regional sales managers a key, they're only going to be able to open the box that contains only regional sales managers' data. So you're grouping it by who needs access, not by what it actually is. Yes?
That is all true and nice, except, on my point of view, that now on Fabric, the connection to DevOps is one branch to workspace. So for developers, they need each one their own space because nobody works in the master branch. It's not like other spaces. So that is what's nice once, but now in development mode, each developer needs their own workspace per database, per connection, per whatever. So it became like because of the branching issue.
Maybe, but there are ways around that. Fabric supports Git integration.
No, I'm talking about Git integration.
You're talking about Git integration,
Yeah.
okay. And you're using deployment pipelines?
Yes, but before that, like you will create, you go to the master branch, you create your own workspace, you go and work on the database, you go, but then you push. When you are connected to Fabric, everyone that is accessing the same workspace, let's say I have a workspace that is called Monday. Everyone who's accessing the workspace will be in the same branch. So two developers will be working in the same Git branch, which is not ideal.
No, and that's probably something that
That's new.
the Fabric developers are going to have to kind of sort out due to feedback. And I get at the minute that is a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Along the same lines, what I'm going to tackle now is how do you use workspaces? So from a Power BI point of view, do you build this workspace? One workspace where you have your development, testing, and production report all in the same workplace. Is that good practice? Everyone shaking their heads. Okay, how about we have a workspace for development and testing, but then we push production to applications that have a different layer of security and access over them. It's a better solution, but is this the correct solution? More shakings of the head. Is this better? Does everybody use deployment pipelines? That way you've got your dev, test, and prod. Better still, wrap the whole thing in Git? No, you can. Is this the best?
It all depends, though.
That's always the correct answer to nearly every question. It depends. And again, the reality is, this is what it looks like. And the correct answer is, none of these approaches are wrong for the context of what they do. If you've got a super user who's just doing a bit of reporting for themselves, they don't want fully Git integrated deployment pipelines. They just want a workspace that they can put their own production report in. That is the correct answer for them. If they then want to push that to their team, well, we'll put production data in an app and just let them look after that and have access to that. That is the correct answer in that case. There is no one golden rule. There is no one best way to do everything. The important thing is that you're monitoring it, making sure you can see what's happening. So we've got Workspace. We know that workspaces are a way to control things. What else can we do to help secure a data environment? We've got a bit of a problem because going back to our regional managers example, we've got 4 regions. So we've got 4 region managers. And I want to give the northern region managers access to a regional report. So I'm going to have to build a data set that's filtered on just the northern region. And then I'm going to have to put it through a pipeline. Then I'm going to have to copy it with a different filtering for east and south and west and throw it all through pipelines. So suddenly, instead of a regional manager's workspace, you've got 12 regional managers' workspaces. The correct way to do this is row-level security. Does everybody know or have used row-level security before? Some, okay. So the basis of row-level security is, depending on who you're logged into Power BI as, you can wrap all of these up into one regional data set. You apply a user table and a bridge table between where you want your row-level security to sit. In this case, we're talking about region. And depending who you're logged in as, the data set will filter to only the data rows that each login has access to. Now, this talks about governance and security, and I'm talking about best practices and efficiency for creating data models. But the knock-on effect is, instead of having 12 workspaces to secure and look after, you've gone down to 3. It just makes life easier. The less clutter you've got, the more things are together, the easier it is to look after from a governance point of view. What else can we do with security? Does everybody use sensitivity labels? This isn't necessarily a Power BI thing. This is more of an Office 365 thing. But does anybody use sensitivity labels? Nobody at all. OK. We use sensitivity labels. And we use sensitivity labels because we have a lot of internal documents. We have a lot of external customers. And everyone's just through Outlook. So my colleague, John, spells his name without a H. I can't get by that. It always trips me up. So when I'm sending him a file on Outlook, click to, type John, hit tab, automatically kind of muscle memory kicks in and I'm sending. Then I realize, actually, that's defaulted to an external customer. What we do is we use internal use as a default in Office 365 for all of our O365 files, including Power BI reports. The reason for that is, now I've sent it to the wrong person. It doesn't matter, they can't open it. Yes, I've got to send an email to InfoSec and apologize for messing up yet again, but it's not caused a problem. It's a simple thing that you can put into place. And the concept here is that because you're using internal use as a default, you're choosing then to take the security off your files rather than having a public file that you can then make internal use. You should always adhere to the most secure methods and then downgrade the security rather than going for the least secure methods and upgrading it when you need to. That will always help save your bacon in a situation like that. Does anybody use Power BI endorsements? A couple of you, brilliant. Just a quick basic overview of what they are. By default, data sets aren't endorsed. If a user finds a data set that they find useful and that wants to kind of push that to the top of the list when people are searching through models, they can promote it. And then you've got the gold industry standard. That's where centrally the BI team are certifying a resource to say, we've checked this, we've tested this, this is the model you should be using for your reports. So we talked about monitoring. How do we monitor all of this? Straight out the box with Power BI. Have you all seen these before?
Yeah.
The usage metrics report in Power BI. It's great because it's free. It's available within minutes when you click the button. And it gives you a brief overview of what's going on at a report level. It's only by report level, and it's only a rolling 30 days worth of data. So if you want to do something tenant-wide and build an adoption of use over time, it's kind of useless. But considering you don't pay for it, it's there, use it. What you can see on the right-hand side is the data lineage view. This will show you what sources are feeding what models are feeding what reports per workspace. So useful, not brilliant. As you know, things cross workspaces. You want to do a tenant-wide picture, a bit difficult when you've only got a workspace level. And that's kind of where we come in. Power BI Sentinel farms the API on the Power BI service and pulls tens of thousands of data points and stores them in an Azure SQL DB that sits in the client's environment. So all we do is process the data and give it back to you. And then we give you a suite of reports that lets you ingest all that data without you doing any of the legwork. And we give you, yeah?
Do you work in government clouds? Because I know that like a lot of Power BI stuff, it's great for commercial, but you know we're in GCC cloud, so we don't get any of the cool tools.
No,
we'll never get
you're on
GCC.
Older versions of cloud tech as well, aren't you? Yeah, come by the booth and ask the same question. It's a bit of an in-depth topic that I don't have time to go into, but we do have an answer for that. Okay. But yeah, so we can give you summary KPI screens. We can give you in-depth lineage pictures, so not just the snapshot that Power BI gives you, but things that are cross workspace, tenant-wide. We can show you, I mean, on the screen here, for example, we've got a data source that we filtered. This. How many workspaces utilize that data source? Just that question itself can't be answered by Power BI. Here, it's just something that we give you default. I'm not going to go through the entire menu. Come to the stand, have a look. We can demo the product. We can show you what it does. We can answer specific questions.
How about gateway connections?
Yeah, gateways is part of the decision tree. It's just not selected on that screenshot, but it's in there. Because we're storing the data on your Azure SQL DB, the retention policy is based on how long you want to keep it. We've got 6.5 years worth of audit data, so we can see who's been doing what, where, why, when, how they're utilizing their licenses over time, how the estate's growing, which is great because it means if we are budgeting for next year, we know whether or not we're going to have to increase capacity because we can see a projection of what's going on over the year, not just per report every 30 days. Yeah.
So why Azure SQL DB? Why not the Delta Lake to store the...
Again, good question. Power BI Sentinel's that old that we didn't have that solution available to us when it was incepted. We are moving to store these in Fabric artifacts, so it's an all-in-one Encompass product. We're just not there yet, but we are going that way. Other monitoring tools, I always get asked the question. Somebody always says, what about Purview? Brilliant. Love Purview. We don't see it as a competitor. It's a bit big and bulky if you just want to monitor your Power BI and Fabric environment. We dive a little bit deeper into the granularity of it, whereas Purview is more of an umbrella tool across your whole environment. I always liken it to if you want to hang a picture on the wall and you want to hammer a nail in, you could go and buy a sledgehammer to do it and it will do the job. It's just a bit overkill. If all you want to do is hang one nail, you're not going to buy a sledgehammer. So I've got these points on a slide. The built-in Power BI stuff's free, kind of limited to time and tenant-wide evaluations. Purview covers everything. It's a bit expensive to set up. It's limited in what it actually dives into in terms of Power BI and Fabric. And then in the sweet spot, we sit and do that job. And we start at 320 bucks a month. Currently, you can get that half price if you come by the booth. for what it costs and for what it does, it kind of sits nicely where it is. So it's just a tool for consideration. With that, my time is up and I'm about to be kicked out. So just want to say thank you and reiterate again, if you do have any questions about the product or you just want to come and chat, we're over in the exhibitors hall on the second floor. Come and say hello. And please feel free to leave any feedback for the session with the QR code on the board. Thank you very much.